Today's show is brought to you by the Libertarian Party of Georgia.
Government should have no say over how your children are raised and educated. The public education system is broken and parental rights are being stripped away at an alarming rate. It's up to us to ensure future generations are shaped by families, not bureaucrats. The Libertarian Party of Georgia is fighting for parental rights, homeschooling, and educational freedom. To find out more and to get involved, visit lpgeorgia.com/education.
This is the Happy Homeschooler Show. We're your hosts, Corey and Lisa Chandler.
Hey, family.
Hey, family. And today we are going to discuss homeschool, co-ops, and community.
Yeah. You know how some people think that curriculum is the first thing that they have to do in homeschool? Like they have to find a curriculum?
Yes.
I think the first thing they should do is find community. How about that?
I agree. Because you may not have to go and do a whole lot of research after that.
Right.
In regards to finding your curriculum, it might already be there in that community or in the co-op that you're currently in.
But you know, finding community is sometimes the last thing that homeschooling families do if they even put energy into doing it.
Yeah.
That's what we did. We did not seek out community first. And it was lonely. And it was a lot harder than it had to be.
Well, yeah. And we were at that point kind of through my eyes and by ourselves. You know, we didn't have a whole lot of people that we knew that were saying, hey, no, go try this or try that. You know, it was pretty much, and I won't even say we at that point, because I was full-time out of the house. You were by yourself with finding what needed to be done or how it needed to be done, where you could go, what all the state requirements were, you know, the coulds and could not do's, all those things. You know, you pretty much handled that.
Yeah, probably not very well, but you know, hindsight 2020, all that jazz.
So it was all on you.
And you know what? I think that's where the lies start. And I got to be honest with myself. It wasn't all on me. I made it all on me.
You're
but
right.
It shouldn't have been.
Right. That's not what I was saying. It was all on you as far as you had to go out and get that stuff by yourself because
just for the logistics of you being working.
No one else was there to help or to give you any guidance at that particular point in time.
So why wasn't anybody there? It literally still fell back to me not seeking out anybody. Like I just felt like I got this, even with you. You know, like I didn't include you as much stuff because I was like, he's working, he's doing his part. So I got this. And y'all, I didn't got this. I didn't. So I think that now, you know, looking back, even when people go onto our Facebook groups, you know, because I admin for quite a few of the homeschooling groups in our area. And every once in a while, I'll see somebody get on there and they'll say, I'm new to homeschooling. I don't know what to do. You know, what curriculum should I get? What curriculum is everybody else using? And it's like, oh, we're still doing this, you know, like.
Yeah, that's the first question.
That's really the first question. The first statement is, I don't know what I'm doing, which is a horrible way to start off your homeschooling journey with that feeling like you are incompetent.
Yeah, because you and the kids are already hearing that from the public school system.
Right.
So now you just acknowledged that they were correct.
Right.
So why are your kids
speaking it into the atmosphere?
Why are your kids, if you have multiples, why are they going to listen to you at that point? You've already said that you don't know what you're doing.
Let me walk into a doctor's office and the first thing out of the doctor's mouth is, I don't really know what I'm doing. I'm leaving the room.
Well, it is called a practice. Nah.
So,
I'm out.
So for me to even say that as a homeschooling parent, I know that is a feeling, but like I tell our kids, feelings aren't real. they will pass. They're literally a response to some stimuli. They're not real. It's not like your feeling is going to come up and stab you. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's not, it's imagined. It's what you feel. And it's not real. If you would change your external situation, your feelings, which is your internal response, would change. So don't give too much credence to your feelings at this point of being incompetent. I don't want you to go around and say, I got this, I don't need any help. Like, that's the other extreme. But I really don't want people to be like, I don't know what I'm doing. Like, let's stop with that.
Right.
Let's stop with that. You'll figure it out. How about wording that as, I'm not sure, but we'll figure it out.
I'm not sure. Yeah, this is new. It's new to a lot of us.
And I think even as a homeschooling family, like if your kids are watching you in your process of learning something new, they'll learn from that.
Right.
And then they'll be ready for life. You know?
Yes.
But yeah, community.
You're the first teacher.
Right. So community, I think, is super important. So how do you first start, in my opinion, finding your homeschool community?
Right. Well, let's do it this way, because you were our starting point.
Mm-hmm.
Let's do, I wrote down some questions.
Okay.
Let's do an interview type, and you can share with our audience here what you think, and I'll chime in every now and then if I see or hear something, and how you went about doing those things. Sounds good?
Yeah. And maybe what I would do differently, because I probably went about it the wrong way.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So the first one I'll say, why is it important to be a part of a homeschool co-op or homeschool community? Or is it important?
Oh, for sure, it's important. And I would say it's because you don't know what you don't know. Right. You don't know what you don't know. So you're going to need somebody who's traveled the journey and is a little bit farther ahead than you. You're going to need to be surrounded by people who are in your same spot in the journey. And you're going to need to be surrounded by people who come after you. I think in community in general, which is something that we don't really know how to build anymore.
Right.
Like, it really does take some learning and some practice. But you need people who are all along the spectrum. You know, people who you can turn around and help, people who you can reach up and be helped by, people who are right where you are. So I would say that, yes, having a community is absolutely important. It's probably the first step. Like, when you get into homeschooling, before picking a curriculum, before deciding what your homeschool is going to look like, find your community. Right. Find your community.
And I'll add into that with our community, one of the things, particularly from the dads that were in the community, they like the fact that, like you said, we had a broad spectrum of
grandparents,
participants. Yeah,
babies.
we had young couples, older couples, mid-age couples, grandparents,
single parents, married parents.
Right. We had it all.
And
black, white,
all ethnicities.
We had I mean, yeah, we had everything.
Yeah.
And we didn't just keep it to academics. You know, we did all sorts of things. So I definitely agree with that. Making sure that you're spread throughout. You shouldn't have one level to your
so when you're
your co-op.
So you know what, like, this is kind of like when we were like looking for churches when we first got to Savannah, and we had certain red flags. You know, like if we go into a church and it's all women and there are barely any men, red flag, right? If there's a bunch of single people and not married people or families, red flag, you know, so there are things that were red flags for us. So when you're going out and you're looking for interviewing these homeschool communities, I think those are the things that would be important to keep in mind, like your red flags. If you see something that's going to indicate the culture runs a certain way, that's not the place for you. Don't even bother going back a second time. You know what I mean? Now, that's not to say when you go in, if people aren't openly friendly to you or stuff like that, it doesn't necessarily mean they're evil, you know, or they have something wrong with them. Like I said, sometimes people don't know how to build community. So, and if, of course, you're not able to find a community, consider being the start of your community.
Right.
Because I think for us, before I even would go out to find a co-op, I would work on building the community in our home. So our kids felt like they had a say and they could communicate and they, air their opinion, because if not, I might be great with a homeschool community, but they're not.
They're not, yes.
Or you might end up coming into the space after I've already established our presence there. And you're like, Lisa, there's something going on here. Because he's real good about that. I call him by gatekeeper, because he'll walk into a space and be like, okay, we can mess with this, but we can't get too personal. And that's okay, except in a real community, you want to be able to celebrate your wins and your losses safely with other people. And sometimes you can't do that in these co-ops. Like, you have to say, I'm going into this co-op strictly for the purpose of my kids socializing.
Right.
Or strictly for our ability to go and participate in outings and field trips as a group. I'm not associating with people because they understand me.
Right. Or certain academic courses and classes.
Right. Or because you need a certain academic course.
That's the only reason I'm in this co-op.
Right.
And that's perfectly fine to do that.
Yeah.
That's what they're for.
What's not okay is going into a co-op that is really only going to meet your academic needs and thinking they will meet your emotional needs.
Oh, yeah, that's dead on it right there.
Because they won't. They'll talk about you.
You'll end up leaving that co-op and having nothing but bad things to say about it. If you went in there with the wrong expectations, or with your expectations in the wrong category, I'll say it like that.
Yeah.
Thinking it's going to meet your emotional needs when it was only set up to meet your academic or social needs.
And maybe not even your social needs. Maybe it's just the social needs of your friends. Because I've seen moms go to these co-ops and like, they won't really talk to anybody, but their kids will be super friendly. You know what I mean? But they'll sit there on their phone, or they'll, playing games or talking to somebody who's outside of the co-op. They won't necessarily be looking to interact with other people in the co-op.
Right. So this right here, Lee, brings me down to one of my questions that was going to be later on in my list. What would be some of the reasons why you would say this is not a good fit for that particular co-op?
Well, this would have to be a super personal answer, because I can't speak for other people because they might be cool with whatever. But I know for me, when I walk into a co-op and I don't see parents exercising discipleship over their children, I won't say discipline, because I also don't like if I'm in a co-op space and I'm seeing somebody wail on their kid. Like, it makes me uncomfortable. I'm like, if you're going to wail on them, do it at home before you get there. Threaten their life real good before you leave the house, but don't be in public and wail on your kid.
Right.
That's just me though. So I would think that the people who can't disciple their children, the people who are so caught up because this is their only time to talk with another mom, they're completely ignoring their child, and their child in that moment needs discipleship. They need training and, correction, and they're not doing it. That's a red flag for me. Like, I'm not willing to deal with that at all. I really dislike humans who have not practiced self-control. And I think social interactions are a great way to practice community by understanding that you can't get your way all the time.
Oh, right.
So if I see that, I'm probably not going to go back. If I see cliquishness, when I go into a space, or when
there's a lot of that out there.
There really is. Because I don't think people understand the importance of being open right now to making folks feel welcomed. And that's one thing that we've done very well in our co-op. People have always said, like, wow, they make me feel so welcomed when I come. Like, they'll talk to my children, they'll talk to me. I have personally introduced, hey, you like this? Well, I know another mom who likes this, and I'll introduce them to each other. I've literally walked up to a kid playing by themselves and started talking to them.
Right.
And then I call over one of the kids I know and I say, oh, this is my new friend, Mia. And I was like, she likes blah, blah, blah. Do you like that? Wow, you two have a lot in common. I said, okay, go play. Like, I'm engineering.
And a lot of that behavior stemmed from previous
it's
co-ops.
Right. And what I didn't like.
Right. Like, why would we recreate what we didn't like from the other co-ops or the co-ops that we attempted to be a part of? And then the participants in our co-op would come over, like you said, man, this is completely different from what we've experienced before. And it's because they were experiencing those same things in those co-ops. Like standoffishness, the kids wouldn't play with each other and the parents wouldn't encourage interaction because the parents weren't interacting.
Yeah.
So it was definitely something that we learned a lot in a short period of time that we were beginner homeschoolers and attending these different co-ops, and we attended quite a few. You guys probably did a lot more than I did.
Yeah, I think ultimately the number was probably between 5 and 7 co-ops that we like messed with for a little bit. And just, you know, the other thing too is that for me, when I go into a space, I like everybody to feel like they have a purpose for being there. And I really don't like when I see the same 2 or 3 people doing everything. So because it's called a co-op, like it's founded in cooperation. So if you're doing everything, instead of saying like, hey, I'm sorry, I don't remember your name, but I'm Lisa, and would you mind helping do this? You know, like, would you mind going and getting that? This is so-and-so, would you mind helping him or her? You know, those are the things like you as the leader of a co-op need to make sure you're hosting that co-op.
Right.
If you're busy running around setting up activities for the kids and making sure volunteers are in place, then you're not able to be host. So it's really important to give those jobs to somebody else so that you can stay kind of like overseeing everything and making sure there's nobody who's just sitting off to themselves feeling uncomfortable.
Right.
Because that will mean they don't come back.
Yep.
And what's the point of having a cooperative if you're not making people feel comfortable? You know what I mean?
And if they go out and start saying, oh yeah, I felt extremely uncomfortable at this co-op, that word is going to pass through their circles, and then that potentially could limit the amount of participants that you have.
Right.
So yeah, that's a very valid point.
And I also don't like co-ops that are too ritualistic. You know, like
that scares me.
Yeah, they're founded on a certain belief system, and so they have certain rituals that are in place and expectations that are in place, and so it almost feels like secular people don't want to go to a religious co-op. The wild and crunchy mamas don't want to go to the secular co-ops because they're not focused on being outside. But I've been to the wild and crunchy ones, and y'all literally let your children do whatever.
Right.
So I don't really like that because it's not enough structure. I understand, you know, the concept of wild and free, and I like it. I just don't like wild.
Wild and crunchy.
Well, that's what they call themselves. But they're wild and crunchy mamas.
Man,
that's what they call themselves.
Yeah. I haven't heard that one. That's
yeah. You know, there's a lot of different options out there available to you. And if you don't like anything, you can always make your own. But the thing is that homeschooling families are super flighty. They're flaky. So they'll start off in doing it and then they'll get tired. And that's why it's really important for a co-op for you to get them involved and invested and doing something. So it's like, okay, well, we're depending on you. And if you're not here, if you don't bring your kids, then that thing just won't get done because you're the one responsible for that.
And you can look at that like, okay, but we're homeschoolers. Especially the homeschoolers that actually understand the level of freedom that you have in homeschool. Yeah, well, we're gonna go this week, but not next week. You can understand it, but you also have to look at it on the other side. It's like, okay, if we're not having full participation or consistent participation, then this co-op's not gonna last.
No, and some of them haven't.
So that's one of the things that I'm not partial with when it comes to a lot of homeschoolers. Not all of them are that way, but there's a great deal of homeschoolers that are like, well, you know, I'm homeschooling. I really don't have to do it. We don't feel like doing it this week.
Yeah, they'll show up late to things and whatnot. And it's like, and I always tell them, I was like, you're not late. Party doesn't start until you get here, but just know we're not waiting on you. Like, we'll continue. And that was the thing. Like, we would start our things on time and we would end our things on time. So the message was, look, if we're not going to be on time, let's not go. And that's why sometimes we would have very low participation in things, because the people who got there on time shouldn't have to wait for the person who didn't care enough to get there on time. And then the person who didn't get there on time was like, oh, they already started. We missed too much. See, next time, if I'm going to be late, I'm just not going to go. And so now you're running into fewer and fewer people participating. So it's literally like this is why I say homeschoolers need healing. Before you even mess with trying to find that stuff, you got to fix your house, you got to fix yourself. Because once you do commit to a homeschool co-op, you really need to get invested, involved, committed to it, because without you, and people used to say that, like, y'all have such an amazing co-op. I'm like, thank you so much for doing this. I'm like, thank you for showing up. Like, literally, we would have no co-op if you didn't show up.
Right. And that's a good segue, Lee. What are some of the benefits of being a part of a homeschool co-op or community?
Wow,
in
so
your
many.
opinion, right?
For me, so many. First of all, you had support.
That was the biggest one for me.
Biggest one. You had support. Like, somebody could answer a question for you.
Yeah.
And it, you know what? I don't even know how many times, I'm going to talk about my sister Melody right now. I don't know how many times I'd be up at like 2 or 3 in the morning and I'd text her and I'd be like, I'm sorry, I'm texting you so early. And then this heifer would text me back. I'm like, what are we doing up at this time? She's like, oh, we're just getting things ready for the day. You know, this is the time of the day where you can like think about things and start your day off right and meditate and whatever. But it's 4 in the morning and we're texting each other, you know, and that's the thing, you know, because who else is going to understand what I'm going through other than a homeschooling mama?
Right.
And if her butt is at 4 o'clock, you know, she's like me, my butt's up at 4 o'clock. So, I mean, we have that camaraderie where I might not be thinking of things in the right way. I can't see it from a different perspective. And you could tell me, but you're a dude, you know what I mean? But when I hear it from another female, it's different. It hits different, as the kids say. It just hits different.
I get it. Another female with the same perspective.
Yeah. You know, and then it gives me the opportunity to help her, you know? So, I'm just really big on the support of co-ops. Sure, when you have things in a group, you get more resources, you know, you get discounted rates for field trips and you have more leverage to do things because you're in a group. Then you have more opportunities to do things in a group. But I think ultimately it's just that we were not meant to be villageless. We're not meant to live alone. We're meant to be a part of a community that needs us. And that we need.
That's right.
And I think a lot of people either really push the idea of independence, like, oh, I'm independent. You know, there's no such thing as independent around here on planet Earth, because you're not going to scratch your own back. You're not going to perform your own surgery. Like, at some point, you're going to need somebody. And there might be something that they need that you're the only one who can provide. So you're never going to find independence. And yet that's what we chase. You know, you want to be an independent woman? I do not personally. First off, that's too much work. Doing everything myself is too much work. I'm not about that life. But I also don't want to be at the other extreme where I'm totally dependent, you know? And I think when we look at our children, we think, oh, these are our dependents. We even call them that. But really, I like the middle. I like being interdependent. I like our kids to know that, look, we need you. You can't just be flaky. The team needs you. And you need me. You know what I mean? You're an
important part of this team.
Right. And
you're an asset.
We all have our own roles to play. We're not going to win this game unless everybody's playing a role. And it's like that in co-ops. I really stress the importance of interdependence. So when our co-op member's kid has a softball game, we'll drive the 45 minutes to the game to let our faces be seen. You know what I mean? Like, if they're having a party at their house, we're going. You know what I mean? Like, and I think you as a co-op member, you have the responsibility of putting work in. You can't just let it be that these people are organizing this stuff and you come and you taste and then you bounce.
Yeah, that's not a community.
Right.
That's not what a solid member of the community.
Right. You think that's a
does.
service, like they're just
Yeah.
providing a service for you, and that's not what co-ops are.
And you should be, in my opinion, seeking to build that community or to be a part of that community if it's already established.
Right.
Right.
So if we decided one day that we weren't going to do something, guess what? There were people in our co-op who would take it and run with it and do it, even if we're not there.
Right.
And if that's the kind of co-op you're in, you know that you're rocking, because it's not just one person doing everything and saying everything and making it everything. It's kind of like, no, this is ours. You know, this is our community.
And
so,
give an example of that. We actually had a Valentine's dance,
a coma, because we stopped doing Valentine's.
That's what it was.
Yeah, we started celebrating a coma, because a coma is actually literally the Ndinkra symbol of the heart, and it means like communal love and affection for each other. And so we started celebrating that with a community family dinner, and we offered family portraits.
Right.
You could get your family picture taken, so you could get all dressed up and come and sit in front of them and get your picture taken.
And then what happened?
We had to go out of town for some kind of gymnastics meet or something.
Gymnastics or cheer, one of those things.
Something
that we had already, of course, scheduled our coma day dinner well in advance. But yeah, I think it was gymnastics. They went to the championship or something. I don't know, but it fell right on that weekend. So our good community people,
they stepped right up.
We're like, no, don't y'all worry about it. We got it. We'll take care of this.
Everybody brought potluck.
And that's what it was about.
Did music. The kids danced. They played. They had a good time. We saw pictures afterwards, and we were jealous that we couldn't go because it was so amazing.
Like, oh man, we missed that. All these dads and stuff was like, oh,
yes. But that's how you know you have a good co-op, because it can run without you. And
no one had any issue with us not being there.
Right. I mean, they missed us, of course.
They understood,
like, but it was like, nah, we got it.
Nah, y'all go take care of your family and do what y'all do. Good luck. Yeah. All those well wishes we got, like, we wish we were there with y'all.
I know. Yeah. but that's the whole thing,
that's
like
what it is. That's the point.
If you feel like an outsider, like I said, that feeling will pass. It's I'd probably check to verify that the feeling is a feeling that's coming from someplace that's based in truth, like they really are a bit standoffish, or maybe your spirit is saying, like, your spidey senses are going off and you're like, nah, this is not the place.
Yeah. Like there were a few co-ops that we attended where I actually had dads, and that's one of the things that I look for. Are there any dads participating? And there were guys that were coming up, hey, introducing themselves, but it was something about them. It was something about how I saw them interact with other participants, other chaperones and things like that. It's like, this is not for me. Not that place.
And that's totally okay if you are not finding a co-op that suits your needs, but then you need to make one.
Yeah.
And the thing is that there's a movie and it goes, if you build it, they will come. Well, these are homeschoolers.
Yeah.
They're not always going to come.
No,
they're not always going to come. What you need to do is build it for yourself.
Be sitting there looking like, where's everybody?
Build it for yourself, and then spend a little bit of time promoting it, and you'll attract the people that are like-minded to you. But you are going to have to put in work. I've seen a lot of people try to start co-ops, or meetups or whatever. And they're like, there's always an excuse. The kids were sick, so we didn't make it. The weather we thought it was going to rain, so we didn't make it. Or we did That just tells me that we are dealing with a community of people who they've come out of the school system, but they haven't given them time for the school system to come out of them.
Right. Detox,
which is so important.
Get it out.
So I would say that if you're going to do a homeschool co-op at this point, because you're not finding what you're looking for out there, then make sure that you are building it for yourself. Something that you would like.
You like to do.
Yeah. We've had these discussions where we're like, okay, it's time to shift and adjust our homeschool plans and whatnot, because we need to provide a service that the community is needing. But then the community would flake.
Right.
So then I started saying, well, no, let's do what we want. And we'll just attract the people that we want to attract. So for the longest time, we were just building the co-op that we wanted to be a part of.
Right.
And if people vibed with it, great.
It drew them in. If they didn't,
and if they didn't, so be it. Because
we
it
were
was
still happy
right.
because it was what we wanted.
And our co-op you didn't have to be a homeschooler. You could be a grandparent. You could be a retired person. We had people who were coming on our trips, our kayaking trips, for example, and they just wanted to go kayaking with a cool bunch of people. Like they didn't even have kids. And some people be like, well, I mean, no, it's for homeschoolers. I'm like, listen, I really dislike the way people take homeschooling and separate it from life.
Right.
Because in homeschool, you want your child to start living their real life right now.
Yeah.
See, in public school, they say like, oh, when they graduate, then you'll be in the real world. Well, in homeschool, real world is right now. The real world is right now.
Every single day.
You're meeting people who are older than you, different than you, have different opinions. How do you talk to them? You have conflicts. How do you resolve them? That's the real world. You have responsibilities to handle right now. We're not waiting till you're 18 for you to start living in the real world.
Living in the real world. And now it's at the point where you're off almost by yourself.
Well, what the heck is the world that you're living in right now if it isn't the real world?
It's not the real world.
What are you doing with these children? Are you, like, literally, they're just serving their time in prison, I guess.
Yeah.
And then they get paroled and now they're out in the world, but they don't really know how to live.
You didn't give them any resources.
So then they'll end up going back in.
Right back in. Right.
They'll be back at your house. Well, no, that's
repeat
fine.
offenders, man. No, we're not doing that.
Yeah. And listen, I'm a fan of children not leaving your house and giving a new bill to Georgia Power or Xfinity or whatever. I'm a fan of not separating your family, but it starts with building your community in your house. If you guys don't have a good community that's in unity, that everybody is working together, that everybody has a vote and a say, that you are able to depend on them. Like, I can't stand when I ask for something to be done, it's not done, and then I get reasons why it wasn't done. I'm like, I don't do you like that. I don't do you like that. When you ask me to do something, I'm going to do it, because that's all we have. So before I can even go out, and have you be dependable to other people in the world, can you be dependable here at home? But I would still choose to build community first. I would just spend a whole lot of time finding the right one or building the right one, even if it's, and I follow this wonderful woman out of Texas, Sean, the homeschool guru. She actually had a picture of her and a bunch of her girlfriends, and their kids were like just playing and stuff. And somebody in her comments were like, how did you find kids for your friends? And she had the most profound response. And she said, no, we're friends, so our kids play with each other. And I'm like, that's it. That's it right there. You have friends. Is your co-op for you? Because then y'all's kids would play together. Think about it. If you find people who are like-minded to you, chances are they're raising their children the way you're raising yours. Yep. So if you find friends, you could build a co-op just off of that, just off of you and 2 or 3 other friends.
Yep.
One other friend, start small. You know what I mean? Like, y'all just do something and be committed to each other. That's how you begin. And I don't think it's as hard as people think it is.
And with that, my next question for you. What were some of the best resources that you use to find these different co-ops?
I think a lot of people need to stop sleeping on Facebook, Instagram. I know they don't like it, but this is what I tell those people who do not like Facebook. I tell them, and I don't care if I get in trouble with the Facebook police right now. I tell them to go ahead and create an account that is for networking purposes only. A lot of these co-ops will not let you join if you don't have a picture of yourself. Yeah. Keep that in mind. But you can have like a profile picture that doesn't actually show your full face. You could show, like a part of you. It could be far away. You could do a whole bunch of things like it tells you to put in your birthday, whether or not you put in your actual birthday, or as Alice in Wonderland says, your unbirthday is completely up to you, because they're not going to check a birth certificate. Right. But you can literally create an account for the purpose of networking. That account is not for it's not to have a bunch of friends. Like, I think I used to have probably like 800 friends or so on mine, and then I just kind of whittled it away. And now there's 6 people on there. on my friends on Facebook, because I'm using it specifically for the purpose of networking and for managing our pages. But I think some people need to just go ahead and swallow that pill and say, I can deal with Facebook, but I can deal with it in certain parameters where I'm only using it to network in these groups. In your profile description, say for networking purposes only.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I am? Or I'm a real person. This is just for networking. And that way, because when we are accepting people into the group, the first thing is, did you answer all the questions and agree to the group rules? You won't believe how many people will not agree to the group rules. Oh, I didn't see that. And then we check your profile, like we'll click on it and make sure you're not a spammer or something. Right. Do people get through? Yeah, but we try to do our best to, admin the group to where it's real humans. Mm-hmm. And then once you get into those groups, use this freaking search bar. Search for things. Don't just get in there and ask a question like, okay, I'm arrived, so I'm going to ask the same question that 52 other people have already asked and answer me right now. Quick.
And I've seen where the question some of these people ask, it's not even weeks ago that it was asked. It was like the same day, and it's right before theirs.
Do a little scroll a little bit.
They just asked that and answered it. Mm-hmm. They were nice enough to answer it again after it had already been asked 5 previous times.
Look, there are usually files at the top of the group. There's usually important information that you can start here.
Take a little time before you start asking
research. It's on you now. And after you've done your research, it's completely fine to ask a question. Mm-hmm. But a lot of people are asking the question from a state of panic. They're not in a calm, place. And so that's why they're behaving the way they're behaving. So when you put energy out there like that, that's what you're going to get back. So it's probably a good idea for you to settle down, just focus on your family for a minute, get comfortable with each other, and start kind of doing some research, because there's a lot of stuff out there. You mm-hmm. will get overwhelmed. But if you can go through and you see somebody who's commenting, get in the DMs and ask them, hey, would you mind if I chatted with you? Because I see some of your posts and a lot of the things that you're saying, I agree with. So would you mind if we just chatted? Even if you're just calling them through Messenger, mm-hmm. Homeschoolers are really helpful, but you got to make sure you're getting advice from a person who's similar to you, who's got an understanding, who wants to help. So that would be my thing. Like, and I'll don't sleep on social media.
I'll add to that regarding Facebook. We did a lot of traveling with mm-hmm. our co-op, and a lot of out of county trips. Mm-hmm. And if you're on Facebook and you're going out, let's say, we're in Savannah, we're going out to Atlanta, reach out to some of the homeschool groups that are in Atlanta. They may be able to point you in a direction where like, hey, well, don't buy your tickets or don't purchase your tickets from here. Get them from there. You'll get a major discount. Don't park over in this area because it's not safe. It's things like that you'll get a lot of valuable information from those groups. It's like you said, Lee, they're really helpful and they don't mind sharing that information.
Mm. And we had a group from Atlanta contact us. They had a beta club there. They were coming down to a conference in Savannah, and they were doing a scene from a book. And it was like the kids were reenacting a scene from a book, right? Like a freeze frame scene. Mm-hmm. And they needed leaves and twigs, and they didn't want to bring leaves and twigs from Atlanta. So they reached out to our homeschool group and like, hey, can we have some leaves and twigs? And literally Corey and I are out raking our yard. Yeah. Like, we got leaves and twigs.
We got a bunch of them.
You know what I mean? Stop by and grab them from the house. It's not just a homeschooling community, y'all. And I wish let's just take away that word for a minute. That's community. That's you. That's what I feel like we had, like as Black folks back in the 50s and 60s. It was like, no, we had community where it didn't matter what you needed. You could have asked something. If I had it, you had it, So that's what I would love to see again. Like we get back to that place where people are focusing on, I'm not going to worry about establishing a homeschool curriculum or planning out my day or scheduling anything right now. I'm going to focus on finding my people.
Yeah. So I'll stop it here. My last question for you.
Okay.
Is it okay to leave a co-op? Is it ever okay to leave a co-op? And what are some of the reasons that would make you decide it's time to leave?
That's a great question. Hell's yeah, it's okay to leave a co-op, son. Hell's yeah.
That part would have been for me like absolutely yes. It's okay.
You know what I
to leave a
mean?
co-op.
Like, look, I have been in spaces where I've contributed a lot to the space. Like I've grown it. You know what I mean? Like I've given them great ideas.
Yeah.
And then when I was fed up, I was like, bye. And people are like, what happened? Why'd you leave? I don't need anybody to come and talk to me. I don't need you to try to reconcile. I'm done. I forgot your mama had you. Please forget my mama had me.
Yeah.
Let's go our separate ways. Like my season is up. And I think a lot of people don't accept the fact that there are seasons to things. You know, in winter, all the leaves fall off the trees. There's not a single leaf that you will find from one year to another year that was exactly the same. Every spring, you will see a new leaf, and every fall, that leaf will come off.
Yep.
In the winter, that tree has 0 leaves and everything else has to get regrown. So I think just the act of leaving something and feeling like, nah, my season's done. And maybe your season takes 2 years, 3 years, but when the season is done, be done.
Yeah, don't prolong it because things only gets worse after that.
Be
If it's
done.
you're already getting those indications that the season has ended, don't try and plan anything else there.
Move on.
Yeah, time
Move
to
on.
go.
Allow something new to grow in its place, level up. You know what I mean? So yes, I think it's absolutely appropriate to leave a co-op. Now look, I don't leave co-ops burning bridges.
Right.
Sometimes I might, scorch it,
Right,
but I don't burn it to the ground in case I got to go back that way.
right. You might have to use it again.
But definitely, I think it's okay for people to leave a co-op and maybe not give any explanation. And here's the thing. I've left co-ops before, and no one has called me to ask me why I left.
Yes, ma'am.
And some people would think that's a bad thing. Some people would think it's because, see, they didn't really care about you anyway. That's not it. It's not that they didn't care about you. It's that they respect your decision to leave.
Yep. You were done, and
you were done, and
okay,
that was it.
We
And
get it. Yep.
I'm of the fan club of I don't beg anybody, right? Like I've had people say like, well, don't you want to understand why they left? No, not really. If they wanted me to understand, they would reach out to me because they're the ones making the choice to leave. Now,
Correct.
If they made the choice, I would prefer them to make the choice to stay and work with me to fix whatever it is their issue is. But that's what community is. It's because you're connected. It's because you care. So you're going to stay and you're going to try to fix it.
If let me add something to that. If it's fixable,
right? And you won't know until you tried.
If it's something that you're trying to manipulate us into doing it because that's what you want to do, that's not fixable to me.
That's true.
So it
so
depends
many
on
nuances.
Yeah, what it is.
But I mean, again, be spirit led because your spirit won't. I just believe your spirit won't guide you into things that are not for you. That'll mess up your life. So, but I've left co-ops and I don't expect them to call me and ask me what's up. I've had some of them call and it's like, hey, how's it going? Like, what's up? I've had people who will, in our co-op, we've sent birthday cards, we've done certain things, and then when they leave, we stop.
Right.
And it's not because we don't care about you. It's not because we didn't love you deeply and your family. But if your season is up, we don't want to keep putting energy into that relationship. We want to, there's limited amount of energy that we have to give. And so I'd rather give it to somebody who's trying to give it back to me. That's reciprocal. I don't want to give time, energy, explanations, or anything to somebody who's already decided they're done with me. Their season's over and they're moving on. Now, if something's going on with your family and you're in trouble and you stop coming, you think, because I thought this, well, they should check on me because I'm not there. Let me tell you a quick story. I was 16 years old and I grew up in a family with, there's 6 kids. So I'm one of 6, and my parents, of course. And it's my 16th birthday. And you've heard me tell this story before. It's my 16th birthday. And I decide that I'm not going to remind anybody it's my birthday. So I didn't say anything. And my birthday came and my birthday went. and no one said anything. 2 weeks after my birthday, I decided to tell them, hey, just wanted you guys to know that my birthday was 2 weeks ago. Immediately, everybody was like, what?
Mm.
Oh my gosh, we forgot your birthday. Now, a person could take that one of two ways. A person could be super pissed off and say, they forgot my birthday. My family is lousy. Forget them. But what I chose to do was to say, wow, they are so busy that it's not that they don't love me. It's not that they didn't provide for me. They wouldn't help me, blah, blah, blah. But it's that a closed mouth don't get fed. So at that point, I decided that if I wanted them to value the things that I valued, I would have to speak up. So from then on, I'd give them the 2-week countdown to my birthday, the 1-week countdown to my birthday, the 1 day before my birthday countdown, so that they would never forget. And they always made it a great birthday because I helped them. Now think about that. Now I grow up and I'm approaching our own co-op. If you don't tell me something is wrong, if you don't speak up, it's that it's not important. You want to make it my fault that I didn't ask you, but literally it's your fault that you didn't say anything. Yep. Now, if you say something and they blow you off, that's on them. But if you don't say anything and they don't say anything, that's on you. Own that, keep that, you're fine. If it's time for you to move on, you don't want to say nothing, you just want to slip away into the night, slip on. Don't expect anybody to chase you, because I think that's what we learn from TV and stuff or whatnot. Like we think that I'm turning and you're supposed to chase me. Like, nah, we're not playing games out here.
An explanation
Be reciprocal.
Is old. Nah.
Be reciprocal. You want it, then put effort into it. Don't play these games where you're trying to get people to read your mind or understand your position and you didn't say anything. So that's what I'll leave it with. That's what I'll leave it with.
Well, good. I think that answers all my questions.
Awesome.
At least for now. I'm sure we'll come back with another episode of Lisa Says, or
right.
What we think.
I'm just saying. It's all good. All right. Well, that's our show for today. Thank you so much for joining us. And remember, if you've got a topic you want us to discuss or a story you'd like to share, you can email us at happyhomeschoolersav@gmail.com. And until next time, guys.
Take care.
Happy homeschooling.